Welcome to all of you for this special interview with Mr. Rajesh Ramlal. As you all know, Mauritian government and FSC recently announced certain substantial changes in the substance requirements for obtaining the tax residency certificate. To discuss the impact of these changes, I have with me Mr. Rajesh Ramlal. Rajesh is the Assistant Solicitor General with the Government of Mauritius, and he also is the President of the IFA Mauritius branch. Thank you, Rajesh, for joining us for this interview. There were certain announcements earlier this year in the month of March on the roles of the directors, and later in the month of September, FSC issued specific guidance on what FSC will consider as a condition before allowing the tax residency certificate. Could you briefly tell us what exactly happened in March and what exactly has happened in the month of September?
Thank you, Amir. It's a pleasure to be with you, speaking to you this evening. Yes, well, I'm speaking as chairman of the IFA branch of Mauritius, and these views are my own there. With these words, yes, there had been a circular letter way back in March earlier this year in relation to directorships and the requirements for corporate governance purposes there, but there has been a follow-up there because later in September, that is last month, the FSC released a communique which was in relation to the amendment which was made to the Guide to Global Business, specifically Chapter 4. Now, this is a logical follow-up of circular letter of March 2013, which was more in relation to a specific test which the FSC would bear in mind when it comes to fundamental best practices and corporate governance in relation to directorships, for example, demonstration of time and so on, and the average number of directorship a particular individual can accept, so that we are reasonable in terms of directorships on those holding companies. Now, in line with that, the FSC came with the communique last month in relation to management and control of holding companies, and so you have therefore a number of tests there which the FSC would apply when they have to determine what is management and control. Now, of course, you have in those the mandatory provisions which have already been there, but which now are more precise and which are more demanding in a particular sense, because we all know about the two director tests, resident in Mauritius, but now the FSC says they have to be appropriately qualified, right? Now, those two directors tests to be appropriately qualified means that you must have persons of a certain caliber there, but therefore these persons who must be people who can apply their minds in a proper way during meetings, and actually have the time to have studied issues that come before the board meetings. And of course, there is an automatic link with the circular letter of March, where we said that directors must give proper time demonstration. You cannot have directors sitting on 1,000 companies. I mean, this has gone, and therefore we are now looking at more substance. At the end of the day, the pursuit is to try to show that even those companies which hold GBC1 licenses are companies that have substance, that have resident directors which are there, which are actually applying their mind to the issues that come before them in the board meetings, and it's all in the wake of having better substance shown by these corporations there. So there is a link between the circular letter of March and therefore the amendment which was issued later in September in terms of management and control. There, so it's all in the sense of building more substance and showing more substance for GBC1 companies.
Right. Some of the tests that have been now notified in the month of September, having office, having
Mm.
person,
Mhm.
perhaps can be met, but ensuring that the directors with the appropriate background, appropriately qualified directors actually spend necessary time in the operation, given the number of companies which are head which sort of the number of holding companies based out of Mauritius. Do you see any challenges in the practical implementation of these new guidelines?
Well, practical challenges, yes, because you will have to find people who are fit and proper to be on those boards. Now, it is clear that a number of people who have been having a high number of directorships will have to rethink the position. And on the other hand, you will have to have these companies, and the management companies will have to um, actually be in line with those guidelines and make sure that those companies that manage holding GBC1 licenses well, they find a broader range of people to sit and be in a position and having and demonstrate to have the proper uh, well time that is necessary needed to sit on those boards and actually apply their minds to the issues there. Yes, definitely there are going to be practical challenges because you will have to look for those people, and necessarily you will have to have new people there on those boards. I'm sure that this is going to not to be going to be difficult there, but of course there's going to be work to be done there for this to happen. But I think that the FSC has another document called FAQs in March, given a guideline, of how to go about this, and this has been issued as a result of an average which has been calculated there, and I think it is not impossible, to make this happen. Thank you.
That is great to know, Rajesh. So, will there be a case-by-case evaluation by FSC while granting tax residency certificate? Because some of these tests are highly subjective. You cannot have a specific objective criteria to decide whether, for example, directors are spending enough time, or even for that matter, the expenditure test which has been introduced. That again seems to
Mhm.
be subjective. So will there be like a scrutiny by FSC of these subjective criteria before granting TRC?
Well, at the very least, when you look at the secondary lists of different tests there, now the FSC says the corporation has to meet at least one of the
Sure.
criteria. Therefore, the corporation will have to see what it can best achieve. Now, of course, when it comes to the number of directors, or how much time a director would spend, depends on the nature of the corporation. Whether it is a fund, whether it's a trading company, it depends. It depends what is the nature of that, and therefore you can have a sort of one-size-fits-all approach there, and it has to be on a case-to-case basis. And of course, the FSC has in one of its FAQs said, yeah, they will look at each case on its own merits there. So I think you cannot have, as I said, one size fits all. Can you just tell me what was the other question there?
Yeah, so my question was that, so will there be a subjective case-by-case evaluation by FSC before granting the tax residency certificate? So in a sense, the process of issuing TRC could be substantially delayed with the new process getting into effect from January 2015.
Um, well, I don't think that would cause a delay. Of course, there will be more scrutiny there. When you try to put these criteria at the beginning, you want it to be an objective criteria. But of course, when you look closer at what sort of company you're dealing with, well, you cannot compare a trading company doing the same activities as a fund company, and therefore, when you look closer at the papers, yes, you will have to apply your tests more judiciously. Now, coming to the issue of the expenditure, which is in the second list, and the requirement there, yes, we all know that one of the ways you should substance is to have an expenditure test. Now, you will see that the FSE has not sort of prescribed a sort of figure there, but it says what is reasonably expected from any similar corporation, which is controlled and managed in Mauritius. So
Right.
what is reasonably expected? Therefore, the FSE will have to look at, what is reasonably expected, and not have any sort of wild guess. And therefore, they will have to look at similar corporations there and come to sort of average. And
Right.
and and as you see, this has to be based on reason, not just on a whim, in that
Right.
sense.
What's been the initial reaction from the investors and the international community? What's the reaction that you've received, Rajesh?
Well, from my side, I haven't heard anything, in that sense. I think the best way is to try to get, the FSC, views on that, if they have had any sort of reaction from that. Um, I think the best people to ask that question is actually the FSC guys.
Okay, okay. And my last question, Rajesh, clearly India-Mauritius treaty discussion has been on the top of the agenda especially from the Mauritius side, especially once the GAR comes into effect. What will be the substance test that will be adequate? Do you believe that these new guidelines will sort of help in bolstering the substance requirements and TRC conditions for India-Mauritius treaty?
Well, you see, Mauritius is one of those few countries actually, who've made, specific regulations in respect to the TRC, following certain recommendations of in the budget, Indian budget, earlier this year. That is one point I would like to make. But the second thing is, yes, there is definitely a sense into bolstering substance in the way we find now these companies will have to comply, and the FSC has given these companies until January 1st, 2015. Now, as you know, the GAR provisions do provide that if you have unacceptable, impermissible, avoidance arrangement, well, this is one of the issues which we try to sort of deal with by having more commercial substance or economic substance. And it is clear that we are moving in this direction, and the global business guidelines have been amended to try to bolster and to have a re-engineering of the way these GBC1 companies have to put more substance by having locally employed people, by also having resident directors that are qualified, so that we know that these GBC1 companies are no longer just brass plate companies, but they are companies with real people behind. And of course, there is one test there which tells you, well, there is an expenditure which has to be reasonable. Of course, there is no figure there, and the LOB, which probably will be part of the treaty, will also address that. So it is clear that it's all there to try to address the issue of now economic substance over just legal form, and not just have a brass plate company. I mean, this is the real issue now, and this is where we're going. And I hope that it actually satisfies the concerns which have been raised, and fit in the requirements under the GAR, which is coming into force in April 2015 under the on the Indian side.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for your comments. And one absolute last question, as a lawyer and as a student of tax, Are you sort of happy with this these guidelines?
Well, the guidelines are as good as they could get, and of course, as I said, well, there is no one size fit all in those circumstances, and it has been produced after quite some reflection, and um, and of course, I mean, everything is not cast in stone. And of course, with experience, of course, we need to be relooked, and this will have to be done. This is work in progress. Yes, I'm happy in that sense because we're moving in the right direction.
Right. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for your time and for your incisive comments on this important development. We'll keep a close watch on it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amir. It's a pleasure to be with you and to your subscribers and to your listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you.